can be okay with
It's not that big of a deal.
the company, you can ignore it.
Should you be boycotting Target? We're going to share some thoughts and perspectives that can help you decide for yourself. So, unless you live under a rock, there's been a lot of controversy over shopping at Target or not. And I will say, is like an avid, you can attest to this.
All day.
I don't even finish the sentence, he knows. An avid Target shopper.
Yes. The person who goes to Target for one thing and then comes back with 20.
No, not the person. Like, that's every woman. Let's just.
Okay. But yes, Christian is a very much a avid Target person. We've even
More
made
what?
videos where we made jokes about Christian going to Target.
It's true. Or Arden going to Target
As
dressed
you.
as me.
Yeah. So this is a big topic. And even for us, it's like, it hits,
Switch.
yeah, it hits home because we're like, whoa, we really enjoy that store. But then there comes a point where, you know, enjoyment versus like what is going to be right ultimately for our family.
And recently, if you're unaware, Target has come forth with not only Pride celebration, as they're calling it, but it's also sexually explicit merchandise and clothing, even for kids. And they're putting it at the very front of the store. So you can make the argument of, well, just don't look at it, or it's not that big of a deal. Look, this isn't like picking football teams and putting it on babies' clothes. It's not a what team or what side are you on. It's sexually explicit. Like, there are children taking in images and even conversations that they shouldn't have to be having yet from somewhere that you do get groceries and items such as that. So that's why for us, it's like, it is a serious conversation.
Yeah, and honestly, it goes so much deeper because when you're thinking about parents and being, mindful of the things of this world and not making sure that we're opening up our kids to anything too soon. Like, I think about my son Azariah. And like Azariah, one of the thoughts I've thought about him is, oh man, I want to protect him from everything. But the problem that we're seeing with this is that it's not just overexposure, it's overexposure into these things that honestly a grown adult shouldn't even be exposed to. And so it's going into the protecting of these children so that they do grow healthy, strong, in a sound mind. And that you're also understanding as a parent, you are a gatekeeper for your house. And the things that you tolerate, things that you allow to be within your house. I remember my dad was very, very firm with some of the things.
Severe.
Yeah, some of those things that nowadays, honestly, he was way ahead of the curve when I actually think about it. Because it used to be back in the day, people would get mad at him because he wouldn't allow us boys to watch some, Disney movies that were, maybe had a little bit of just a kid talking disrespectful.
Yeah, Pokemon and McDonald's toys.
Oh, he burned them. Yeah, he burned them. No, he burned our like Pokemon stuff, anything like that, because he was very much like wanting to make sure he protected our home. And I will say, you went too extreme on some of those things.
But there's a weight when you're a parent. Like, you feel like this is a young, impressionable mind. And that's why it is such a conversation. Like you're saying, they are so impressionable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what he understood. And so he took it to an extreme, but it's actually interesting because he took it to the extreme. And I was just listening to a sermon today where the Bible was talking about honoring your father and mother. And back then he took it and looked at it and said, look, in these movies, there's parents who are being disrespected by their kid the entire time. The kid's talking back to them. And at the end of the movie, they get whatever they want. And so he's like, no, I don't want you to watch this. He's like, I'd rather you watch movies with righteous killing because that's over the Bible kind of thing. But he was so protective over something that seems so innocent.
Like even just like a shut up, mom.
Yeah, like just things like that. And what my dad, I loved about it, now looking back at that, is there was some things, like I said, he was severe on, but then there was other things that he was very much just understanding. If I give a foothold into my house for those things, that it's going to latch onto my kids. And it's going to be something that they're going to have to navigate and deal with. And I look at like all of my brothers, and none of us have ever dealt with dishonoring our parents or dealt with those things. And so I love that my parents protected us in that way. But that's why also I think it's more to this whole Target situation of, oh, it's just a company, you can ignore it. Mm-hmm. It's no, what are we allowing to get a foothold into our kids' lives?
Yeah. And if you're like, well, do I need to boycott them or not? Is it really that serious? Like, I think it's easy to put a label on something like you are being severe or you are being overtly critical or you're not being loving. And that's like the godly, purpose-filled way of living is like you need to go into the world. But what we're saying is where we spend our time, where we spend our money, where we interact and where we live our lives, like what we're exposing our children to. Like, let's just be extra mindful of that. So for us, we are not shopping at Target right now, whether it's Target or wherever, even on social media right now, like seeing young children open up to stuff that like I would have blushed at even in high school, desensitizing a whole generation to like what's the normal. And I think also pulling away from the conversations that are good. Like it robs the time of, it brings to mind, do not awaken love until the time. Like there's a time to have the conversation. There's a time that they are mature enough to handle that. There's just even better things that children should be doing. Like it's not even, I don't know, there's a conversation of like, well, this is the real world and it's out there, so they might as well be enjoying it. Like your children, you should be having fun. You should be making forts. You should be walking in the innocence that you only have for a short time.
And I love that you talked about the searing the conscience. To put that into perspective, so like let's say I had a hot iron and I put it onto my hand, that would hurt really, really bad.
Yeah.
But then it's going to kill the skin. And let's say I do it again. When you're searing your conscience, the first time that something happens, like when you feel it in your spirit, and this is what I would challenge parents and people, and like this goes beyond just parents, it's individuals as well. When you're searing your conscience, that first time and you feel like, man, that's not right. If you ignore it, you're probably going to come across something like that again. And I'm telling you, your conscience is not going to be as loud that next time.
Yeah.
So it's important that we listen to that voice that God's given us. Yeah. And understand, is this feeling off? Is it no, like maybe I can be okay with
Just running for the groceries real quick. Yeah. We're looking for new stuff for our setup. So make sure you're subscribed here. So we're going to be doing more videos and even more podcasts soon. But I was looking for chairs and I was just finding okay deals. And in my mind, I was like, I bet Target has some good chairs. I was like, no, it's not worth it. What, to save maybe $50 here and there?
Yeah. And here's the thing. I don't do the whole like, hey, if this company does this, we're not going to ever partake in that, because I don't have a standard for the world. I have a standard for my household. And as a father, I have that standard. And I want to make sure that I uphold that for my family. So I want to protect my family in that instance.
I love that you just said that, because even if you're a single guy and you're like, I don't have a problem with shopping at Target. We talk about this in our dating videos, but like as a man, as a leader, you hold this mantle. And even if you, again, aren't married yet, aren't a father yet, walk in that authority from day one so you can begin developing the character. So it starts with things that seem small like this, like where do I spend my time? Where do I put my money? Like just knowing everything you partake in is fueling something. So like, what are you going to fuel? And what are your convictions going to be? Like establish those from day one, because that's something you've done and you've held that character. And that's one of the things I love about you. Again, like don't discredit yourself of like, oh, what am I parent? That'll matter. Or I can overlook these things. Like it affects everybody. So for us, it's not, are we boycotting Target or are we just going to let this slide? But it's, hey, what if we tried to even more intentionally spend our time and our money in places and with people that are spreading kindness, that are spreading love, that are spreading encouragement, and not even creating division. So I love that you can see this right here. This is a sign from my friend Janessa Waite. And it says, this family is set apart for his glory. And I even just love that as an ending reminder. Like, remember that you are set apart for glory, to create glory, to glorify God. And let that be in all of your actions, even the seemingly mundane, like where you get your groceries.